Hi, my name is Paula Ner Dormiendo. I'm the writer and director of the short documentary On the Fence. It is a short documentary about a group of multicultural individuals and their struggle with cultural identity. You can find us upcoming on Milton Film Festival this upcoming January 30th. And to stay up to date, you could also follow us on Instagram at On the Fence Film. So, yeah.
Cool. I'm Liv McNeil. I'm 15. I live in Toronto. I made a film in July about quarantine and isolation and mental health titled Numb. You can search Numb by Liv McNeil on YouTube to see it.
Perfect. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm doing good, thank you. Kind of just been doing nothing the past little week, working on school.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I have been working on my thesis film. So right now I'm in the midst of like post-production. So that's kind of what I've been working on since the holidays ended. So yeah.
I didn't actually think I asked you before. What is your thesis film?
It's we touched on it a little bit at the very end, but my thesis film is about grief and something. It's inspired by a really personal event that happened to me and my friends, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. It should be coming out around May or June, around that time period. So I'm excited to show everybody. Yeah.
Cool. I'm very excited. What are 3 key decisions you made that contributed to the success of your film?
So 3 decisions that definitely contributed to Fence's success and aesthetic would definitely have to be the quantity of our stories. So there's 5 people in total that the film focuses on, and I think the reason that we chose that in the first place and why it's so successful is because there isn't just one narrative and one experience that we focus on. It's the amount of it. It's the fact that there is no single story, that there are different experiences and different stories that people have. And I think that's the reason that it's also so universal and so relatable in a way. I think the second really successful thing that we did, it would definitely have to be bonding with each other. So unfortunately, I had the opportunity of interviewing people who were in my program already. So we knew each other at some extent, and I'm already friends with some of them as well. So to kind of maintain that connection, we really wanted to make a safe space for everyone to be able to talk about such intimate details about their life. So that was really important that we started that as a foundation from the beginning, and then it reflected in the film. And I think it showed that the testament of what it means to really make sure that you're caring about each other, that you're making sure that the other person is feeling safe. So yeah. And the third one would definitely be having a really solid post-production period to just play around. Unlike fiction, obviously, we don't really get to write our film from the start, at least not to that extent. Like, we don't have dialogue that we could reference. But when it comes to directing a documentary, it definitely has to have an allotted amount of time for editing and making sure that we have this cohesive narrative and that we have time to make the film as it comes to us after shooting. So yeah, that's definitely the 3 main key points. What about you?
I guess number 1 would be the teachers and students and parents that shared it everywhere. After I made it, I did my best to post it to my social medias and promote it as much as I could, but it was really helpful to have other people helping me out and promoting it. Second would be having a clear idea going in, like an organized storyboard with a solid idea. I like to have a doc with all the shot lists, and I digitally draw not each frame, but like a general idea of where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. Also, choosing the right song. I think that music can convey an emotion that visuals can't. And the song that I chose, Tears Are Becoming a Sea by M83, I thought it really met the kind of emotional expectation I had for this film. And also for the timing. I made it at a time where it was very relevant. So it hit a nerve because people were struggling and going through the same thing. And I've just had people tell me that they related to it, and I'm glad I could do that.
No, it's definitely true that it is really timely, and I'm glad that you brought that up, is because you deal with something that we are trying to make more open. Is the reason, like, I found the film really mature because you don't really offer a solution in the film. It's more of exploring this feeling that you yourself in the film was going through. And yeah, I thought it was really timely, and it's something definitely that as a society we need to be more comfortable with talking about, being vulnerable and feeling frustrated in very strange times. So yeah, I definitely agree. Um, and I'm glad that you brought that up about like storyboarding and about shot lists. That's actually kind of what we did for On the Fence, where we did a paper edit. So doing a shot list and then corresponding audio on top of that, and using time codes to make sure that we know exactly what shot and when we want to use in the film. So that also really helps, and that went into post-production as well.
Yeah, what you said about the solution, like not proposing a solution, that's kind of what I tried to convey in the last part, the silent scream, where it's more of a vent. I'm just talking about my problems, not trying to pose a solution. And the whole silent scream is, you can't hear it because, I mean, we're all going through the same thing, but we can't really console each other because it's isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about the 3 technical obstacles you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
For me, it was definitely like, because we had so many stories going into the film itself, we definitely had to cut down on a lot. I mean, we had 12 hours of footage in total for 5 stories, so it was really, the phrase "kill your darlings" was said a lot during post-production, and unfortunately a lot of really important things had to get cut out, but things that weren't necessarily um, parallel to what we were trying to say, and what was parallel to the narrative that we were trying to form and shape. So unfortunately, some things got cut out. I think the second one would definitely have to be this idea that we want to make the subjects memorable. So because there's so many subjects, we didn't want it to be hard to follow, like you couldn't distinguish which character was from who. And I think the reason and the solution to that was really making really distinct visuals behind them. So that comes with the projector, and making sure that each person had this little distinct motif in the film. And that also goes for sound as well. Um, the A huge part of the film was making a memory come to life in front of you. So sound was a huge part of that, of immersing you into the story and the memories that they were talking about. And I think the third one would definitely have to be disconnecting myself from my subject on screen. Um, I never I never intended to be in the film itself. That's kind of just something that happened in production. And to be honest, it was something I was really uncomfortable with for a really long time. Not only from like a documentary ethical view, but it was also like I realized that I started nitpicking at all these little things that I would do on screen. And at some point in post-production, I just realized I had to put blinders on. Like, I needed to make sure that I'm serving the story as much as possible and doing it as objectively as possible. So yeah, that was definitely a big issue for me.
Yeah, I really agree with you. You have to like disconnect yourself and almost treat it as an actor, like it's not you.
Yeah.
Because I have the same problem with my films. I like to act in them and do it all. I'm very independent with my art. And with my most recent one, Numb, I was the only one in it, and I had to watch myself awkwardly scream cry for like an hour and then cut it up and watch it again and again. So yeah, I can relate to that.
How long did it actually take, the process of making the time lapse?
Uh, the overall filming took a day, and the time lapse part, I guess like 4 hours. I would just sit on my bed and I had the audio playing on my computer, and I had times in the song, like beats that I would have to hit and do the movements, and then I would uh, do the whole thing, and then change my surroundings, do it again, and then I did that 13 times. So I had me doing the same thing 13 times, and then I cut it up and rearranged it, and I ended up having 500 different clips, different like movements, and then I had to make it smooth. Yeah.
That's really intense. I Oh my God, that must have been so meticulous, but I'm like the result turned out incredible. So that's a lot of hard work and you have such great results that came out of it. So I'm really glad.
Thank you.
It was so, that scene especially was so powerful to me. And one other scene that really caught my attention was the voiceover scene. So you actually had voiceovers of your friends. I wasn't sure if that was something personal or it's something that you actually recorded specifically for the film.
Yeah, that part is one of my favorites because it was so nostalgic to look back at those clips, because the audio clips are from real videos I took in like 2019 of me and my friends when we could hang out. And I was just scrolling up so far into my camera roll and finding videos of me and my friends on rooftops and at school and in the art studio. And some of the audio clips, they work in the film, but they make no sense out of context. For example, one of them, my friend is going off to get food, and I say, where are you going? Or something like, come back. And if you just take that section of the audio, it makes sense because, isolation. But really, she's just going to go get food. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I love that it's the themes of your film translated into the process, right? Of this isolation and this nostalgia. And when you were going through your camera roll, that's exactly the feelings that you were going through. That's kind of the same thing that happened with Fence, because in my research process, I delved into like my family albums and my home videos, and it was such a cathartic process because you realize that so many of these things in your life that you forgot are no longer in your life. So it was a moment for me to grieve, and that actually seeped into the film because when I found my home videos and I found that it was a really cathartic moment, I asked everyone else to do the same in the subject, not only my subjects, but the entire crew, to do that same cathartic feeling, to go through those same motions and the exact themes that we were talking about. And the homemade videos and the family photos that they have actually ended up in the film. So that's exactly like the ones that we have on the projectors. So yeah.
Yeah, also when it was your time to interview, I could really see like it was your film, but you still seemed like such a important actress in like interviewing. And the part where you kind of, I wouldn't say will break down, but your emotions really come through.
You can say break down.
Yeah. You can really see how much emotion you put into it.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad because it was a very vulnerable moment, so that means a lot. Thank you.
Of course. I should talk about other technical problems. So one of them for me was not having a tripod. It's such a small part in filming, but it was a big pain for me. I just used a ladder and I balanced my camera on the ladder, and I had sticky notes to prop up the lens. It was very scuffed, but I'm happy it worked. And then the filming of the last part and the editing. For the filming, it took a while. Like I said, I just sat in my bed for 4 hours, and I did the music and the timestamps, and that took a while. For the editing, like I said, I chopped it up into 3 millisecond long fragments and then rearranged them. That took a while to edit. And then for, oh yeah, that's all the technical problems. What about projects that you have underway or intend to make in the future?
So I kind of touched on it in the beginning a little bit, but right now I'm in my last year of college. So I'm working on my thesis film right now in the midst of post-production. My thesis film currently right now is called One Art Road, and it's inspired by some events in my life. that I decided to reflect on and write about, and I'm really excited. It's right now its trajectory is like its trajectory for finishing is May or June, so I'm really excited to show everyone and see what their reaction was. Yeah, so what about you? Do you have any future projects?
Yeah, I'm working on one called, well, this is like a possible title, The Awkwardness of the In-Between. And it's going to be about like when there's nothing going on and everything is the same, every day is the same. You notice the little things that repeat every day. My analogy is the regular world is like a loud, angry orchestra, but now it's still noise, except it's shifted to white noise. And you notice the things that were lost before. And it's going to be a compilation of random vignettes of awkward occurrences that happen every day. For example, if you're on the subway and you're talking to your friend and they say a whole thing, but you're wearing masks and you can't hear each other, that's a thing that happens often. So yeah, I'll be working on that for the next little bit.
That's great. I love that idea. That actually reminds me of a short film. I might send it to you after this, but yeah, so it's called, I don't remember what the title is, but it's by Anna Maurizia and it's a stop motion film. So I definitely want to send that to you after this for sure.
Sure. So where was the silhouette and the profile? It reminded me how since the film is about identity, it kind of played into the idea how they may not want to share their identity. So they could still talk to the interviewer and feel comfortable, but not feel like the camera's in their face.
It's great that you mentioned that because that's exactly it. Well, less interrogative and more that the reason we use silhouettes in the first place is because we wanted to keep the subjects feeling safe, like they had the ability to talk without and be vulnerable without showing too much of themselves. And I think the reason that that it was a silhouette, it gives them the audience a reason to force themselves to listen more to the story and what they're saying rather than what they look like. And in film, the majority of the time when they use like profile shots, it's usually to showcase that a character has something to hide or that there's two sides of the character that we don't know about. And that's kind of what we wanted to show in On the Fence, to show that there's this story that not many people talk about that's never really in a conversation, and this weight that a lot of immigrants and children of immigrants have had to kind of keep to themselves, growing up in another country and feeling like they're too far from either cultures to feel like they belong. So that's actually the very reason that we chose profile and silhouette. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's allows them to say what they want to say and still be vulnerable, not have a camera in front of their face while they're pouring their heart out. Mm-hmm. And you earlier said about the thing about it's just a big dark room, and when you turn the lights back on, there's actually people, but they just forget about the camera for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask you as well. Because I know that you filmed this by yourself, but what are some of the benefits of actually filming a film by yourself, and some of the cons that you found when doing the movie?
Oh yeah, a pro for sure when I'm filming it alone, especially for Numb. I did a lot of like awkward stuff, just like sitting there screaming. So I'm camera shy, but I'm even more shy when there's a person behind the camera. So when I'm alone, I can just do my thing and not be self-conscious and just do what I need to do until I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But a con would be, I guess, when I was like changing my surroundings and my hair and my outfit and stuff, it would have been better if I had someone like handing me stuff. I had a chair off screen that I had all my stuff on, and I was just reaching and changing up stuff. And also, to press record even just it was difficult when I would mess up and I didn't want to have like a 4 hour long recording, so I would lean forward and try to press the button, but it would like move the camera because of my sketchy ladder tripod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your sketchy ladder tripod, yeah. Let me go through some of my notes for a second. Oh, So something that I haven't been able to ask you, but I really loved that you looped the time lapse, because I realized that it's like it emphasized this idea that the days blurred even more, and the fact that you did loop them, and I could see the recurring like costumes, and even the time, the fact that the clock is there was really clever. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about your decision to do that, and anything else that you could talk about, like making the time lapse as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. I really did like so many factors went into trying to get across the idea that the time lapse is supposed to be like the same couple days reoccurring, or even just the same day happening over and over and over again. Because like I haven't gone outside for a while. I mean, in real life, but also in the film. Like you're just sitting there doing the same thing. You're like a hamster on the wheel, and I wanted to show that monotony. So the same kind of the same arrangement of the items kind of happens again. Like it'll be here and here, then it comes back. Like you can see the things that reoccur, and yeah, I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I really love that. Yeah, did you have any other questions that you wanted to mention?
I covered everything.
Yeah.
So
Let me go through my list one more time just to see. Um, this is more of a general question, but what's your process of from conception to execution? So, what gives you inspiration, and how do you take this one spark of an idea and turn it into a film, or however you do your creative output?
that's a good question. Specifically for Numb, it was a school project, and it was very open ended, like end of year type of thing. So I just turned it into my own passion project, and did almost like a documentary of what I was feeling, like isolation, stuff like that. But just generally, I have a big list on my phone of all the ideas, just even if it's so incomprehensible, just like the most random thing that pops in my head, I write down because I might like it later. I usually don't understand them the next day, but if I actually am interested in the same idea for a couple days, and I know it's going to be one that I want to stick with, because sometimes I uh, lose motivation and I just scrap a whole bunch of the ideas. But if I have one idea that I know I'm going to stick with, then I write a whole bunch of stuff about it and make it into more of a clear idea. And then from there, I get like a more like a bigger doc, like a full thing I could write all my ideas in. Then I do a shot list, a
Mhm.
concept kind of elevator pitch, and then I do some storyboarding. And yeah,
That's so thorough. No, that's incredible. I'm glad. Um, yeah, I loved. If there's anything else that you wanted to mention.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, well, I really love talking to you. You're such a creative and intelligent person. It was
Thank
nice meeting
you.
you.
You too. All right. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you. Okay, have a
Bye.
good night.